Hello, my name is Miguel Sanchez, and today I'm going to talk about reading and checking some quick status of a 2032. The main reason for me creating this video is because even though the 2032 is no longer sold, we still have a lot of devices out there. And maybe you have one of these and still want to use it or still have to use it. And if you still have to use this device, then you may want to know how to read settings. As you know, SEL has some great support that you can reach out and we can help you out. But most of the times we're going to ask you about the settings that you have. And so it's very good for us that you know how to do this. To get started, you're going to need to connect to the device, and you can use a serial connection to do this. You're going to have a DB9 connection on the 2032 front port, and you can use, like you can see here, cable C662. This will convert the DB9 connection to an USB. There are a lot of cables out there that can do this, but just I want you to keep in mind that the cable should have a DCE connector on the DB9 port so that you're able to read it properly. If you're using a C662, then make sure the DCE is selected and that the 5 volts on pin 1 are off. If you're using an Ethernet connection, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to change the IP address of your computer. You can do this by using the ncpa.cpl and then changing the connection that you may have. And then you can test this connection by doing ping. Remember that to do this, you need to know the IP address of the device and you need to know how you're going to connect. If you're going to connect directly, you can just use any other IP address that's not on the 2032. But if you're going through a network or a switch, then you need to know that no one else is using that IP address. Now for the software. On our website, we have the SEL 2032, and under support, you're going to find that we have the software that you can download so that you can start working with this device. The latest version was released in 2019, so a few years from now. Right now, I'm recording this video at the end of 2024, but as you can see, well, we still are able to help you support this. Okay, so let's go back into the software. When you open the software, you're going to see something like this. And this is showing you all of the ports that you have on the device, a way to connect, read, do a terminal setting, view the logs, and finally exit from the software. The first thing that you're going to do once you have your connection is you can go to the connection directory. And right here, we're going to add a couple of connections, one for the serial connection and one for the Ethernet. So the serial connection is going to be usually a 9600 power rate for the frontal port. Is going to go into the port that you have on your computer. As you can see in my computer, I have 3 ports. You know that COM8 is the one that I'm using to get to my device. If you don't know, then one of the quick tests that you can do is just unplug the device from your computer and see which port disappears. Parity data bits and stop bits, we're going to leave them as they are and we're going to hit OK. This will create the first one. Now let's do another entry for Ethernet connection. If you're doing an Ethernet connection, then you're going to select Ethernet. You're going to put the IP address of the device. In this case, let's assume it's 192.168.1.2 and port number 23. That would be one of the most common ports to use for a telnet connection on the device. Okay, now that we have for both of our connections, we're going to set the first one as default. This will allow me to hit connect at any moment. And the first time that I hit the connect, it'll go directly to the serial connection and try to connect. The other thing that we could do is we could go into the options. And in these options, you can see what type of device you have, what are the options for the hardware that you may have, even some configuration options, and the connection type, right? I'm not going to change this just so that you can see that even without this, you're able to connect. So I'll go ahead and hit connect. And when I do that, if my cable is good, then it'll go connect to the device. And as you can see, the first thing that it does is go and sees that this is in fact a 2032 or 2030. And then it'll go and ask me for my password. Once I set the password, I can save it as a default. hit OK, and then it'll go and connect into level 2. Again, I'll have to type my password for level 2. If you know the normal level 1 and level 2 password for SEL devices is the same for a 2032. So here we can see how the device is connected, and you can see some of the commands that you could use to kind of check on the status of the device, including the who command, which shows you all of the devices that are connected to it and how they are connected to it, right? As you can see, it shows that there are some conflicts because I left the options as default, and this device is not a 2030, but it is a 2032. I'll hit OK, and now I'm gonna go ahead and read the device. This will go ahead and go collect the settings for the device. If you wanna read just one specific port, then you can select that port specifically. You wanna collect some global settings. You can see a little bit of a description for all of this. And if you wanna read all, which is my case, then you just go ahead and read all, and it'll go and read each one of the ports one by one and get all the information that you need into the log, and then put all of the settings into the main dashboard of the program. So we'll give it a little bit of a second so that it can go ahead and read everything. So now it's asking me if I want to download the DMP maps, and I could have up to 5. So I'm going to download the first ones. Okay, for me, I'm not gonna download all the custom maps because I already know that I don't have any more. But in your case, I would really suggest to download everything. As you can see, would be a very long process, but it's better to get everything and read it completely. Finally, it's reading the final port, port 18, and once it's done, it'll show you something like what you see right here, right? It says I have multiple devices. Out of those devices, a few of them are SEL. Some other ports are unused, and some ports are even Modbus connections. Now, the one thing that I would really suggest for you to see is go and check the devices that you have. In this case, I have on port 10 a 421-3, and the baud rate that it's connected to is 9200, 8 bits, one stop bit, no parity. In this case, it does have the handshaking and the software handshaking. So once I see that it does have something to connect to, I can check also the auto config, and this is basically telling me what data is it collecting and how often. So as you can see on D1, data region 1, it's collecting the meter information, which is basically all of the analogs, and in D2 is collecting the target information, which this is basically all of the binary information. Each one of those is being collected every 2 seconds, so you can see how this is pulling the data. For some devices, you can have some math equations, and the math equations basically are the way that you could map information from your SEL devices into maybe a Modbus device or a DMP device. This is always the interesting part about the 2032s. Okay, now that you have read everything on the device, you can also open a terminal. And with the terminal, you can see all of the different commands that you have been doing with the interface of the device. But also you can do maybe status command and just see the status of the device, which ports are active, what is the success rate on the connections. And just by looking at this, you can see that only port 10 is being used for this device, and it's the only one that is really getting data, right? All of the devices that you saw on the settings, 1, 2, 6, and 12, they really are not getting data. It's just the definition of the port, right? Okay, now that I had my settings, I can go ahead, save these settings as anything that I wish. I could put this on my desktop if I want, or I can put it on my documents and just save it as, you know, file read one dot set. Okay, so now this is the file that I'm going to be using to send out to support. So the name will be file read one dot set. Remember, if it's a file set, that's the one that we need. And it usually has the icon just like the one that you see here, the SEL 5020. With that, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show you. Now that you have the file, you can send it out to your support engineer or even use it to convert it to an Artex settings file. Thank you for your time. And as always, remember that if you have any questions, please reach out to the support line where you are always greeted by an SEL expert. Thank you.